Carnegie Night News 21 is a national reporting initiative based at ASU's Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. News 21 is a reporting project. They bring together some of the nation's most talented journalism students to produce in-depth multimedia projects. And News 21's latest project looks at threats faced by election workers and the impact of those threats here in Arizona and around the country.
Maricopa County, the elections process was a very sleepy, quiet, one-day event for the most part. What we saw in 2020 was obviously something that really shook us and our community. I mean, obviously, a lot more security measures taking place with fencing, but we do additional measures. You'll see everything from the roadway to the sidewalks to the parking lot fortified, and I hate to say that and use that, but that's the reality. And our number one job there is to make sure that they're safe and that they can carry out the process that needs to be done.
I've been at the Maricopa County Attorney's Office for 16 years. I've gotten letters to me. Actually, it was a letter to my wife, but it came to the office saying that this person was going to kill our fourth child, and they named him. You know, I thought it was interesting that they knew my fourth child's name. So my phone rang, and I was told go upstairs to sit in the county attorney's office. The FBI is there, and they need to talk to me. And they had two very specific threats to me and to my children that they had gotten on the internet. And they put armed guards on my house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is what they give you when the FBI tells you you better wear body armor and you better carry a firearm.
Yeah, chilling stuff. Joining us now to talk about the overall effect of these threats they're having on election workers, Pauline Arriaga. She's executive editor of Carnegie Night News 21, and via Zoom, Denzen Cortez, a News 21 fellow. Thank you both for joining us. Pauline, we'll start with you. What inspired this particular investigative report?
So every year we bring together students from universities all across the country to report on one major topic. And our larger topic this year was actually the state of American democracy. So investigating intimidation, violence, and threats against election workers was one piece of a much larger project looking at where we are right now in our democracy in what I think is pretty safe to say, an election year like no other.
Yeah, indeed. And Denzen, your part in this project, talk to us about that and what you expected going in and what you found.
No doubt. Well, first off, thank you for having us to speak about this story. And once we started in this journey of this story, we started back in January, actually, script writing, where we wanted to really dive into this election season. And just like how Pauline said, it's a very contentious election season like we've seen no other. When out in the field and speaking to these individuals, I believe a lot of people tend to look at them for their occupation for what they are. In reality, these people are mothers, fathers, neighbors, and they're doing this for us as a democracy. And what we found out, in our reports is that 7 out of 10 field threats have kind of increased since 2020. And, it's only going to get, unfortunately, more contentious as we go on. We're a week away from the election. And from our reporting, we saw numerous amounts of things ranging from different states as well.
Yeah, and Pauline, your reporters obviously talked to election workers. The effect these threats had on them, what did you all find?
Yeah, I mean, so you heard some of the threats right there. And the piece, I think that's what was so stunning for us. We had heard about some of these threats, but Denzen and the other reporters got audio of some of these threats, got copies of some of what was posted on the dark web. I mean, Tina Barton, an election official in Michigan, she quit. She now works with the Committee for Safe and Secure Elections. She now goes around the country and tries to help train both law enforcement and election workers to increase safety at this time. And Tom Liddy, they were threatening his child. He ate Thanksgiving dinner in 2020 with armed guards outside of his home. And he drove to the sentencing for the person who threatened him. So, I think it shakes them to their core. They walk around until they know who actually the perpetrator is, fearful of anyone on the street. Their kids are fearful. And people are quitting. So the Brennan Center for Justice studies this. Over half of election workers fear for their safety or for the safety of one of their colleagues. And a third know somebody who's quit because of this.
And-
That's a threat to democracy.
It is indeed. And Denzin, when you're talking to some of these folks, when you're interviewing them, how difficult a process is that? Because this is emotional for them. This is a difficult thing for them to talk about. How do you get to them? How do you get them to open up at least enough to where it's informational for the rest of us?
I think like any other interview, we try to treat them with the respect that they deserve, and speaking to them on a personal basis, and not looking at them of just what they do for their occupation, but for who they are as a person. And when they were sharing their stories, specifically Mr. Liddy's story, and he showed us the bulletproof vest when we're interviewing him, and when he raised that to us, that kind of just, even as a journalist, you kind of just are kind of wide-eyed on that moment for these officials and these individuals having to kind of fear for their lives. It's definitely shocking. You want to approach it with the respect and dignity it deserves to tell this story.
And Denzin, when Maricopa County Sheriff is quoted in the report as treating this as a, quote, major event, when you hear something like that, what goes through your mind?
No doubt. They also said they treated it like their Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
it is a quite big event for them. No doubt Arizona is another battleground state in this election, and they are definitely trying to treat it so. In our report and in the video you will see, just back in July, they had already boarded up outside the tabulation center.
Yeah.
And, just approaching that in the manner that's going to have to be, it's quite shocking.
And Pauline, as far as getting reporters, just corralling them, getting them going in the right direction and coalescing everything into this report, how difficult was that?
That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
We had 29 different reporters from 14 universities. Thankfully, we also had some amazing editors from around the country. And Denzin just had the opportunity to work with Angela Hill, who is the Cronkite School's Ida B. Wells professor. And she used to work at the Washington Post, great video producer. So it's an incredible challenge. But look, we have them in the summer for 10 weeks. We sent them out to over 24 cities in 17 states, and they produced a ton of content around the state of American democracy that's truly impressive. And this content's been picked up by the Associated Press, by USA Today, Mother Jones, Vote Beat, you name it. PBS NewsHour.
Yes, and Arizona Horizon
And
right
Arizona
now.
Horizon.
Denzin, before you get out of here, real quickly, what did you learn from this story?
I learned that this election is unlike any other. But also, too, that a story like this needs to be told. I think in normal election seasons, we see a lot of horse race coverage as far as the polls, what state we could see voting which way, but you don't see a whole lot of in-depth reporting as far as what is going on behind the scenes. And myself and my team, I just want to give a shout out to Gabby, Marshall, on that whole video team as well, to putting this together, as well as the writers, because telling these in-depth stories behind the scenes, this is what Americans should definitely be seeing, so they know when they head to that ballot box, the people that are helping move forward all these processes. All
right, real quickly, where can we find this report?
Fractured.news21.com. Boy, I hope I got that right.
Me too, because you're going to get a chance to say it again. Good to have you here. Denzin, good to have you here as well. Thank you so much for your great work. Thank you
so much.